Okay, so let's get started. And if other people come in, they do. If not, we got everyone we need right here. Okay. Okay, so we're about to get into some really awesome stuff over here. It's very like a little bit abstract and conceptual, but it's awesome stuff. So let's get into it. And we're all gonna have to really put on our abstract thinking caps for this a little bit, and to understand, especially how it relates to us, is going to take some time. But Baruch Hashem, it's going to be awesome. So we remember the whole string of everything, that we have to go and see a tzaddik face to face, and by seeing the face of the tzaddik, we'll come to do tshuva. We'll wake up in us without any words even spoken. And in order for a person to get to such a level, they have to be able to be proficient in what's called lashon hakodesh, which means not only or not just the Hebrew language, but it means also the way that one speaks, and the type of words a person uses, the type of topics that a person says. Their words are used for good, positivity, not bad, not lashon hara, not all these negative things. And then that's connected also to the bris halashon. The covenant of the tongue is connected to the bris milah, the covenant of the sex organ. And these two things are very much together. So speaking lashon hakodesh is something that can bring someone to purity in the realm of bris, and the other way around works also. Having purity in the realm of bris in the sexual realm can bring someone to positive speech. So these two things are inextricably bound, and they work off each other. Then we said that this corresponds, this aspect of lashon hakodesh and purity in bris is connected to Chava, to Eve, Chava. And of course we saw that the name of Chava is related to holy speech. Like the pasuk says, Laila le'laila yechaveh das, night to night, you express, you give over, you tell over understanding. Right? So Chava represents holy speech, we saw. And this concept of holy speech and purity in bris, Chava Isha is also called Isha Chachma, Isha Chachama, the wise woman, and is also called the Ruach HaKodesh. We saw that Ruach also means speech. Ruach HaKodesh means Lashon HaKodesh in the same way. Whereas the other way around, you have blemished speech, and Pagam HaBris, Pagam HaLashon, Pagam HaBris corresponds to the snake in the Garden of Eden, not Chava, and to the Ruach Sa'ara, which is the storm wind, which refers to the klipas of Tuma, and then it also refers to the Isha Ksilis, the foolish woman. And that's where we're at. And we saw all these concepts. So we're going to move on to now something that we kind of hinted to last week, which is this middle ground. So let me read a little bit, and then we'll start to explain what's going on over here in the bigger picture. We're on letter Dalet on page 138 in Reb Chaim. Veda. Pardon me. Veda. She'eshes kasilos zois. Shehu klalus hara shel shivim lashon. That this negative spiritual force, which we're calling eshes kasilos, woman of folly, the foolish woman, which is the all-encompassing ra, evil, of all of the 70 nations, which we said is taivas niuf, right? Efshar lehem linak mi'isha chachma milashon hakodesh. They cannot, that force cannot draw from the power of the wise woman, Chava, lashon hakodesh. Like we have these two extremes. On the one side, we have Lashon HaKodesh, absolute holiness, purity, and shleimus, completion of Lashon HaKodesh. And that's Chava, and that's Isha Chachama, the wise woman. And on the polar opposite side, you have the Isha, Eshes Kasilus, the woman of folly, who corresponds to Taivas Niyuf and the all-encompassing evil of the rest of the world, and the snake. You have these two things, polar opposites, right? And the negative force wants to pull energy, Shefa, from the holy forces. This is a constant battle that we always face. And there's a lot of Kabbalistic learning is discussing this idea. Right? So we're saying over here, it's not possible though. The negative force cannot draw energy from the positive side. Ela eldei bechinas eitz hadas toivara, except through the eitz hadas toivara. That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That represents the mix of good and evil, which is the stage in between the evil side and the good side. Right? And in the garden, of course, you have the nachash, the snake, is like the evil incarnate, and you have Chava, who's kedusha incarnate, if you can say such a thing. And he cannot. How does he get to her? He gets to her through the eitz hadas toivara, through the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Right? So what does that mean? It's only through that tree that he was able to get to her and to connive and convince her and to implant his filth into her. And this Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, that it has within it these two powers, toivara, good and evil, hu emtsa'i bein Lashon HaKodesh, it is the medium between Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, Shu Isha Chachama, which is the wise woman, Shekulei Toiv, which is completely good and completely holy, Ubein Lashon Shel Shivim Amamim, Shekula Ra, and between the language of the rest of the world, the 70 nations, which is completely evil. So the evil side cannot go directly to the holy side and be yonik, suckle from the energy of the holy side. Rather, it has to go through the intermediary, which is the Eitz Hadas Toivara in the story of Gan Eden. And remember, the foundational source for all of this is Chava being the source of Lashon HaKodesh, and is the snake in the Gan Eden being the source of evil. And the Eitz Hadas Toivara is in the middle. Okay, whoever keeps unmuting themselves, please stop, because it makes a lot of noise. Thank you. The Eitz Hadas Toivara zeh Lashon Targum. Okay, so we have this funny thing in our religion, right? It's really weird, and we have to understand it. We see that the holy language, the language of the Torah, right, and of most of our religious texts, is Hebrew, right? This is the holy tongue, Hebrew. And we don't really have any other languages, but for some reason, we have this language of Aramaic that is very much a part of Judaism. Most of the sections of the Talmud that are discussions about the Mishnah, in the Talmud, you have the Mishnah, which is in an ancient form of Hebrew. I think scholars call it Mishnaic Hebrew, a tiny bit different from other Hebrew. But then the discussions of the Gemara are in Aramaic, right? Aramaic. That's called Lashon Targum, which means, Targum means translation. So too, you have the most important commentary in a certain way on the Chumash, on the Torah, is called the Targum Onkelos, right? It's so important to the extent that we have a halacha, it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, that every week a Jew is supposed to learn over the Parsha, what's called Shnayim Mikra ve'echad Targum. 2 times reading through the Hebrew text, and 1 time the Targum, the translation. But all the poskim say it doesn't mean just a translation into your language. Some people say that, but some people say it should be Rashi. But really, the main opinion is that you should read it in the actual lashon of the Targum, this translation that Onkelos, the ger, Onkelos, the convert, wrote. Because it's not just a direct translation, it also brings a lot of explanation on a very, very deep level of what's going on, just in the slightest change of words, right? It was written with a certain level of prophecy, and it's very special. But it's so important. The entire Zohar HaKadosh, the Zohar, is all Aramaic, very thick Aramaic, right? And then you have other Svarim in Nach. Some of the Sifrei Nevi'im are partially Aramaic, fully Aramaic. I don't remember which ones it is. Maybe like Daniel. Some of Yecheskel, I think, is some of these Svarim. I don't remember. But it's weird, right? Why do we have Aramaic? We have Hebrew, and then we speak whatever languages we speak. English, Yiddish, Spanish, whatever people speak. American. And then, but then we have Aramaic as a big part of this. So that's called, and that we refer to as Lashon Targum. Okay? So, Rabbeinu is saying, Ve'etz hadas tov v'ra ze Lashon Targum. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, this middle ground, is the Lashon Targum, is the language that we call Targum, Aramaic. Shu emtzai bein Lashon HaKodesh ubein Lashon shel Shivim Amamim. It is the medium between Hebrew and the 70 languages. Just like the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra is the medium between the evil side and the good side, between the snake and Chava, so too in the languages, because Chava is Lashon HaKodesh. You have the Hebrew language, and you have Lashon Targum, and then you have the 70 languages. And the Lashon Targum is somehow the medium between those two. V'Lashon Amamim, Kisharoitzim Linaik, Milashon HaKodesh, and the language of the other nations, when that language is a force, and language is a power, and language is something that really defines a lot of our existence, right? Language is not just something, a technical thing, the way that we communicate. Language it changes the world. It changes our relationships. Language makes our relationships. Language is a huge aspect of our existence. It's our malchus peh. It's the way that everything that's in our intellect and in our emotion is revealed into the world is through language. Language is a power, right? And so there's a certain power, spiritual power, to every language. And these, just like the evil side wants to draw energy from the good side, so too the evil languages wants to draw energy from Lashon HaKodesh. And when it wants to be linik min Lashon HaKodesh, Iyeh efshar lehem linik mimenu el yedei Lashon HaTargum. It cannot draw from it except through the Lashon of Targum. Lashon Targum hu bechinas isha maskeles. We now have a new word. We had isha chachama, the wise woman on the good side, and we had isha eshes kesilus, the foolish woman on the evil side, and in the middle there's what's called the isha maskeles, which means like a woman of intellect. How does he translate it here? Woman of intellect. Intellectual woman. Wisdom is different from intellect, right? Right? In everyone understands that. Isha maskeles. Bechinas maskil al yedei turgaman. In this aspect of that a person can understand, intellect, can have an understanding through a translation. So where did we get this Aramaic language from? How did it become part of us? So it's brought down in the Marsha, in the Gemara in Megillah, that so everybody probably remembers from Pesach, right? We say Arami Oved Avi Vayered Mitzrayim, right? Quoting the Haggadah. So Arami Oved Avi means that an Aramean, that's the language, Aramaic, wanted to destroy my father, right? And so on. We went down to Mitzrayim, right? And then we say the Lavan Bikesh Lakares Hakol. Lavan, the Aramean, wanted to uproot everything. So the Maharsha explains that the Lavan is, of course, the father of Yaakov's wives, and we inherited that language from Lavan, and it was really, says the Maharsha, a spoken language of the Jews from that time of Yaakov Avinu, to the extent that when the Torah was given on Har Sinai, it was given as the Torah and also as the Targum, in Lashon Targum. Because he says in this way that Aramaic was like the vernacular of the time. We see for sure in later stages, in the times of the Batei Migdash, of the temples, Aramaic was the spoken language. Right? So it plays a big role over here. It plays a big role. Yeah, very, very interesting. So Targum is the middle, and so we have three levels of understanding the evil side, the good side, and the middle side right now. We have the snake, Chava, and the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We have Eishes Ksilus, the foolish woman, Isha Chachama, the wise woman, and in the middle, Isha Maskelis, the woman of intellect. And then the last one is, of course, Lashon HaKodesh, Lashon of the 70 nations, Lashon HaKodesh, and in the middle, Lashon Targum. Okay. Ki Lashon Targum, Yesh Boi, did he say this yet? Yeah, he's going to say it. Yesh Boi Tov V'Ra. The Lashon HaTargum, just like the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra, is something that has within it good and evil. V'lifamim hu b'chinas maskil. So sometimes it's maskil. The word that we said, Isha Maskelis, the woman of intellect, the word for intellect, maskil. So sometimes the Lashon of Targum can be something that gives us a haskal, gives us maskil, that enables us to understand, to have intellect. V'lefamim hu b'chinas mishakel, but sometimes it forms the word mishakel, which means destruction. Sometimes Aramaic is holy, and sometimes it's disastrous, and it's destruction, right? And it's the same word. The word, so the female representation of this language is called Isha Maskeles. Why? Because the word itself, Maskeles, Seichel, right, is either Seichel, intellect, maskil, or it's Mashakel, which means to destroy. The same shurish really is both things, is either intellect or destruction. So too, that's the whole concept of the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra. It's good and evil mixed in together, right? The Lashon Targum is like this, and the Isha Maskelis is like this. Ve'eshes Ksilus Hazois Hi Mefata Es HaIsha Chachama Al Yedei Isha Maskelis, and this woman of folly tries to convince, lures the woman, the Isha Chachama, the wise woman, through the Isha Maskelis. Ki Iker Tagbaras HaKlipa Eino El HaYedei Lashon Targum, because the main way that the Klipa, the negative, evil side, arouses itself and strengthens itself and takes over is only through the Lashon Targum. It has to go through that medium. Bebechinas, like the pasuk says in Devarim, that we say by the Haggadah, Arami Oved Avi, an Aramaic, the Lashon Aramaic, tried to destroy my father, my ancestor, my forefathers. Right? It's not the Lashon. It's not I don't know. Pick another ancient nation. It's not Greece. A Greek tried to destroy my father. It's not a Roman tried to destroy my father. It's Bedavka, an Aramean. It has to go through this Lashon of Aramaic. It has to go through the middle ground in order to destroy. So too, B'chinas min Aram yancheni Balak. So when Balak wanted, everybody knows the story of Balak and Bilam, right? They wanted to wipe out the Jews also. And Balak didn't know what to do. So he saw that Moshe Rabbeinu had this tremendous power through Lashon HaKodesh, through Shleimus Lashon HaKodesh, and he said, I need the counterpart to Moshe Rabbeinu. So who did he get? He got Bilam. Bilam is the power Keneged Moshe Rabbeinu. So What does the pasuk say? Did anybody ever realize this before in Bamidbar when it talks about him bringing Bilam? It says min Aram. Where did Bilam come from? From Aram. That's Arami. That's Aramaic. Bilam's source is Aramaic. He's that middle ground. Shu Lashon Targum, which is the Lashon Targum, Aramaic. Shehu Lashon Arami. That's the Aramaic language. Shederech Sham Misorim Linak Miakadusha. It's only through that the negative forces can pull out the holiness, the energy from the holiness. It has to go through that middle part. Ve'ikr binyana ushlemus shaloshen hakodesh. So the next question is, we understand the system, right? We were pretty careful to explain it multiple times. Maybe I explained it too much even, right? But that's the system. That's the way it looks. So now, what are we supposed to do? What do we do? Ikar binyana ushlemus shaloshen hakodesh. The main building up of and perfection of Lashon HaKodesh Eino ela al yadei shemapilin hara shel Targum u'malin es hatoiv shebetargum lilashon HaKodesh. Only happens when we subdue the evil parts of the Lashon Targum of the Aramaic, and we raise up the good parts of the Aramaic Lashon Targum into Lashon Kodesh. This is the avodah. This is how we perfect and raise up the holy tongue, by subduing the negative parts of Targum and raising up the good parts. Shaydazeh nishlam Lashon HaKodesh. Through this, we perfect and complete Lashon HaKodesh. V'Lavan ha'arami, shu arami oived avi. And so Lavan, the Aramean, who was the guy who wanted to destroy our ancestor, Ratza linik me'akadusha al yadei Targum. He, Dafka, wanted to do this. He wanted to pull energy, shefa, bounty, from Yaakov Avinu through this middle language. Valkein karaloi. So what happened? They had to make a deal. They had to make like a covenant, Lavan and Yaakov. And so they made a deal, and they built an altar. And there, Lavan gave the altar a name in the Chumash. This is wild, right? What language is the Chumash written in, everybody? It's written in Hebrew, right? Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, right? Written in the Chumash, it says when Lavan built this, when he named this altar, he called it Yigar Sahadusa, which is Aramaic. It's written into the Torah, Aramaic, Dafka by Lavan, right? Because this is his pathway. This is the only way that he could attack the side of the good, is through this middle ground of Aramaic. So he names it an Aramaic word, and that Aramaic word is written into the Hebrew Torah. It's actually there. It's as if there's like an English word in the middle of the Torah, right? It's totally wild. So what happened? Yaakov hayamal es Targum Lashon HaKodesh. Yigar Sahadusa means the hill of witnessing, of testimony, the hill of testimony. Yaakov hayamal es Targum. Yaakov said, "No way, not a chance. You're not going to get to me through this." And he took that name, Yigar Sahadusa, which means the hill of testimony, and raised it up, the Lashon HaKodesh, into Hebrew. And then afterwards, the Torah says, Valkein Kara Loi, Yaakov renamed it, the same place, Gal Eid, which means the hill of testimony. He took it from Targum and put it into Lashon HaKodesh. He raised it up to Lashon HaKodesh. These words are actually in the Torah. First an Aramaic name and then a Hebrew name, which is totally amazing. There's no German in the Torah, right? There's no Swahili. There's nothing else. But there's these two Aramaic words. It's really out there. So we're seeing something build up over here, right? And it's this aspect that not only are we seeing that there's a good side, an evil side, and a middle ground where the two kind of meet, but we're seeing now that there's a job to do. And the job is not just to be on the good side. Interestingly, the perfection of Lashon HaKodesh is not just to always speak Lashon HaKodesh. That's what you would think, right? To forget all the rest and just speak Lashon HaKodesh. That's not it. The perfection of Lashon HaKodesh is to take that middle ground, which is built of Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, of good and evil, and redeem the good that's in there. Lift it up. Find the good in that middle ground and raise it up and subdue and get rid of the rest. Right? So there's a lot, in my opinion, right? A lot of this is going to be the way that I understand this, but there's a lot here that is beyond the words that are on the page, right? This is really our whole existence. We exist in this realm where it's Tov v'Ra, where everything's mixed up. And the job of a Jew is not to go and build a temple, synagogue, a beis medrash, a study hall, and sit in there and never leave. Right? We don't do that. We have to figure out what it is in the world that we have to raise up to Kedusha. We have to find the good and redeem it and leave the schmutz behind. So too, we have to get married. Right? A person might think this is a real thing. Remember, we've told this story before. I'm not going to tell the same story, but there's this Indian that a person might think that the best thing. What would a big tzaddik, Talmud Chacham? What's the ideal life of a big tzaddik and a Talmud Chacham? So they should be this guy. They should build for him a beis medrash full of svarim, and he should just learn and daven all the time. And people should bring him food and all his needs. And this is how we'll make sure that there's the biggest tzaddik in the world that we need. Right? Like lahavdil, like they do in some other religions, where they have a guy, or they have their, the leader. They have, listen, I'm not trying to be mean here, but you have the Pope, lahavdil, and then you have the cardinals and the bishops, right? And they don't get married, and the Pope is set apart from everybody, just to do what he has to do. Right? We don't do that. The biggest tzaddik must be married and must have children and must be part of the world. Right? This is how it has to be. So that story of the holy celibate, remember this one? The Rav Arush writes in, I think it's in the Garden of Peace. Right? The holy celibate who lived his whole life like this, he got upstairs to Shemayim, and they said to him, "You got to go back down." And he said, "What are you talking about? I was a huge tzaddik, and I learned all day, and I davened all day. I did everything, right? Everyone thought I was the biggest tzaddik." They said, "What are you tzaddik? What are you talking about? You're a terrible person. You're a balkas. You're an angry person." And they said, "What are you talking about? Everybody knows I'm the sweetest, nicest person." And he said, "Oh, you didn't get married. You didn't have children. If you would have gotten married and have children, then you would have been doing the test that I put you down there for. Then you would have seen your patience tested, and you would have seen how difficult that test really was, and you would have seen that you're an angry person, and you would have been able to work on it and fix it. But you didn't. You did the opposite of what I put you in the world for. You shut yourself out from everyone. That's not what it's all about." So I'm saying this is kind of beyond the page what all of these things are talking about. That there's the perfection of the good side involves being involved in the middle and pulling out the good. Right? That's what we're saying so far. Everybody with me? Okay. So you see also, this is unbelievable stuff. Listen to this. So Yaakov, remember how we explained before how Yosef was involved in the perfection of Lashon HaKodesh? So Yaakov spent a total of 22 years away from home. And 22 years corresponds, just like Yosef, to the 22 letters of the Aleph base that make up Lashon HaKodesh. And so he spent 20 of these years with Lavan in that aspect of Aramaic. And in that place, he pulled out all of the good that was there. This is what he did. And another amazing thing, we see that when Yaakov left, Yosef and Binyamin were born, right? At that moment, right at that time when Yaakov left, Binyamin was born, and Rachel named him, right when they left Aram, the place of Aramaic, and went to the Holy Land, went to Eretz Yisrael. They went from the land of Aramaic to the land of Lashon HaKodesh. And at that moment, Rachel named her son Binyamin, but she didn't name him Binyamin. If you look in the Torah, she named him Ben Oni. Ben Oni, right? Which means, well, I'll say what it means in a second. But afterwards, Yaakov said, no, that's not his name. His name is Binyamin. Yaakov gave him this clearly Hebrew name, which means a son of the right hand, which means a person of strength, right? So, I think, who is it over here who says this? Right, the Medrash. The Medrash says that his mother named him an Aramaic name, and his father changed it to a Hebrew name. Just like the situation of the Mizbeach, of the Gals, the Sahadusa, right? And he changed it from an Aramaic word into a Hebrew word. So too, she named him an Aramaic name, and Yaakov changed it to a Hebrew name. Totally amazing. Not only that, though, this name Ben Oni, right? This lashon of Oni, Ben Oni, it is a name of Toivara. It is the exact name of Toivara. Why? Because Oni means either one of two things. Either it means affliction, suffering. What word does he use over here? Sorrow, Oni. Or Oni also means strength. The same shorish means either sorrow and pain or strength. This is the name she gave him. She gave him a Toivara name. She gave him a Targum name. She gave him a name from this middle existence, where they were with her father, Lavan Ha'arami, in Aramaic. Can you believe it? And Yaakov said, we're taking from there. Yeah, we were in that realm, but we're taking it and we're raising it up. And this boy is not Benoni. He's not Toivara and this. He's Ben Yamin. He's totally Lashon HaKodesh, and his name is power and strength. So he took from that Targum and raised it up and perfected it into Lashon HaKodesh. Totally amazing. Can you believe these things exist in the Chumash? Like all these things, and Rabbi Nachman is like a navi. He's like a malach that he can pull these things out. It's amazing. Okay, so we're going to take this to a new level now. This new level is like very, very cool, but it's even a little bit more abstract, but awesome. Okay, so it goes like this. V'zeh, v'yapel Hashem Elokim Tardema. Okay, so when Chava was created, so what happened? Adam existed as Adam HaRishon, and Hashem gave him anesthetic, put him to sleep, and cut Chava off, and then filled in the spaces, and you had Adam and Chava, right? The creation of Chava took place through Tardema, which means sleep. The creation of Chava took place through sleep. It didn't have to be there, right? Hashem didn't have to put him to sleep. Hashem could have made it happen, just done it, and made it so that he didn't feel anything, right? Nowadays, my wife is an anesthesiologist, which is called in modern Hebrew, she's called a rofa hardama. Same word, tardema, hardama. An anesthesiologist is the same thing as what the Torah says when Chava was put to sleep. When Adam was put to sleep, right? But nowadays, we have to put someone to sleep if you want to cut them in half. Hashem could just be like, snap his fingers, or do the genie blinking thing, right? And you got two people. He could do, just joking. But he could make it happen without having to use an anesthetic, right? But it's in there that he first put Adam to sleep and then created Chava. Chava was created through sleep. You with me? Mispar, so Tardema, the word Tardema, Mispar Targum Kamuva, is the same gematria, meaning it's absolutely connected with the word Targum. sleep and Targum, the Targum is Aramaic, are the same exact gematria. They're totally linked. What does that mean? Ki yadei haTargum ikar binyana shel lashon hakodesh. Because we see through Targum, that's the main building up and perfection of lashon hakodesh. Vayadei shamalin es hatov shebetargum lashon hakodesh u'maplin harasha bay, and it's through that we raise up the good that's in lashon hakodesh, that's in Targum, up to Hebrew lashon hakodesh. Umapilin harasha bay, and we smack down the evil that's in it. Noiflin kol sheim lashon. That's how all the rest of the evil of the languages is wiped out. V'chinas lashon neifal lashon. Like we said, the language falls through the language. I want to just say over here, the way I understand this, what's the connection over here, is that, so everybody has heard before probably, that Chazal tell us that sleep is 1/60th of death. Right? Everyone knows that? Sleep is 1/60th of death. And Chava, who's Lashon HaKodesh, what else does her name mean? Her name means Chava, means life. Eim kol chai. Her name means speech, and her name means life. This is what Chava is. Speech, holy speech, and life. And the sleep, the Tardema, sleep is 1/60th of death. What does sleep do for us? Every morning we say, right? What do we say? We say this whole beautiful prayer that Hashem returned our soul to us in our sleep. What's so important and special about that? Our soul goes back up to the holy places and gets refreshed and revitalizes us and comes back down into us. So sleep, you see, accomplishes something absolutely essential for us and gives us the ability to be holier today than I was yesterday. Hashem took my neshama, refreshed it, and put it back down into me. Right? This is what sleep does. Sleep, oh my gosh, the famous thing they say about the Arizal, that on Shabbos, the Arizal one time fell asleep in front of his students for a few minutes. And everybody knows that when you fall asleep, you go to, special places. And the Arizal, when he would go to sleep, he would consciously go up to these places and be able to study and learn and understand the secrets of everything, right? The secrets of infinity. I don't know what to call it. While he was up there. But one time on Shabbos, this happened, and it's amplified on Shabbos even more, right? So one time on Shabbos, he fell asleep at the table, and his students saw that he woke up and he was like electrified, right? And they said, can you tell us what you saw when you went to sleep? And the Arizal told them that if I was able to teach you for 24 hours a day for 1,000 years, I couldn't teach you what was just given to me during those few minutes of sleep on Shabbos. Because his soul went so high up to such a place that he was able to bring something down like way beyond anything, consciously somehow. That's the Arizal, not us. Right? Why am I saying this? I'm saying, you see, that sleep is something very positive and powerful, and we need it, and it restores us. But on the other hand, sleep is 1/60th of death. Sleep, he doesn't say this here, but I think this is what he means. Sleep is a mixture of Tov and Ra. Sleep is the middle ground over here. That's why Tardema and Targum are the same exact gematria. And that's how Chava was created. The life, Chava, Eim Kol Chai, life was created with an intermediary stage, which is 1/60th of death, from the previous death or non-existence. Right? It had to go through this intermediary stage. This is, I think, what he's saying. V'zeh vayapel. So when the Torah says that Hashem caused her to fall into a sleep, caused him to fall into a sleep, Adam Rishon, it says vayapel. That means and he fell into. Vayapel. Says Rabbi Nachman, vayapel notrikun. It's an acronym for Pe lehem velo yadabru. We have this line that we say in Hallel, Pe lehem velo yadabru. They're talking about idols, that they have a mouth but they don't speak, right? Because it's through this aspect of sleep, Targum, which is an aspect of the Lashon Targum of Aramaic. This was the Ikar Binyan. This is the main building up of Chava. Who is she? She's Lashon Kodesh, holy speech. Through bringing out the good that was in that sleep event, and lowering down, wiping out the ra, the evil that was there. That's how Lashon HaKodesh is built. Just like Chava was built, that's how Lashon HaKodesh is built. By pulling out the good from Targum and slamming down the evil of the rest of the languages. You see, by the way, he's going to say this at some point, but you see, it's very, we never thought of this before, but in our tefillahs, in our prayers, we have all these parts where there's like Aramaic parts thrown in, where sometimes Hebrew is sandwiched between Aramaic, or Aramaic is sandwiched between Hebrew, right? And it's exactly what we're talking about over here. It's pulling out, what's the prayer that to many Jews is the most important prayer ever? Right? How many Jews are not affiliated? Right? They're not from, they're not religious, they're not so careful with things, but they say, I want that when I pass away, that my child should say Kaddish for me. Kaddish is all Aramaic. It's not Hebrew. And Kaddish is something that is inserted in between all sections of prayer. So you see that there's this aspect of pulling out, together with the holy language, with the Lashon HaKodesh of prayer, there has to be that Targum, that Aramaic in there also, that middle ground. And we have to pull the good out of that language. That's what's happening over here. The Yosef. So what's so special about Yosef? We already explained last class how Yosef has this perfection of Lashon HaKodesh. Now we're going to take it to a whole new level. Through this power that he had, he was able, Yachol lefasher chelmin, to interpret dreams. Why? Ki ikar hachalom hu b'sheina, because the main aspect of a dream is sleep. Hainu betardema, which is this aspect of Tardema. V'shleimus Lashon HaKodesh hu yedei Tardema, and the perfection of Lashon HaKodesh comes through this type of sleep. Shubechinas Targum, which is Targum, the same gematria. V'alkein Yosef, shezacha l'shleimus Lashon Kodesh. Let me finish this paragraph. Yosef, who was able to get to this level of the perfection of Lashon Kodesh, she'ikar shleimus al yedei Tardema, that its main perfection and building comes through this Tardema, Targum, sleep. Alkein hayedei lefasher chelmin sheba Tardema. Therefore, he knew how to interpret and explain dreams that happen during sleep. He was able, he merited to be able to clarify this aspect of Targum and Tardema. What does that mean? That means to raise up the good that's in it and to knock down the ra, the evil. Right? That's the perfection of Lashon Kodesh through Targum. Therefore, he was able to interpret the dreams that happen during sleep. He could see a dream and understand what part of that dream is the good, what part of that dream is the truth, what part of that dream is meant for the person as a message, right? Just like that Lashon Targum is a mix of good and evil, and we have to be able to pull out the good to build Lashon HaKodesh. Just like the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra, we're in this world, and we have to pull out the good and raise it up and leave the dirt behind. This is what happens in a dream. A dream is a whole mess. A dream is like, things are happening all over the place. Some things are important, some things aren't. And someone who has this ability, this is what Yosef reached, this level of perfection, that he's able to understand what's the good and what's the truth in all aspects of existence. See, the tzaddik is taking this, and this is his entire life. This is his entire existence, is how to see where's the good and where's the stuff that needs to be elevated and what needs to be broken down. So for Yosef HaTzadik, to hear a dream that happens during sleep, which is that time of middle ground, he was able to pull out what was important from those dreams. Bechinas Tardema, bechinas Targum, ki hu zachal avaras lashon Targum, shezehu ikar bechinas shleimus lashon kodesh, shei Targum zachal azeh. It's through this concept of Targum that he's able to raise this up. So I was thinking, two things we see from here. So first of all, like we said earlier, the principle that I see unfolding over here is that shleimus. What does shleimus mean? Shleimus means to be complete or to be perfect, to perfection. Perfection is not isolation. Perfection is rectifying something. Perfection is taking something that needs to be elevated and elevating it. Right? If you had someone who was born, this could be why, I'm throwing a lot of this out here, this is not written on the page, but it could be why we say, b'makom she'bal tshuva omed, tzaddik gamer eino yachol lamed. Famous thing that the Gemara says, the place that a Bal Tshuva stands, even a tzaddik gamer cannot stand in that place. Right? Why? A tzaddik gamer, in a certain sense, has never gone down into a place where things need to be rectified like this, where things need to be clarified and lifted up and raised up and brought back to the side of good. This is what this whole idea is bringing out here. It's that rectification that's happening that is really creating the shleimus, the perfection. Right? So it's not about being off in an ivory tower. It's about living in the world and doing what we have to do to pull the good out. So we see also, Rabbi Nachman talks about this a lot. And when Ramata was here, he really put it in such a beautiful way. Because we've talked about it so many times. This concept of Yerida Tachlis Aliyah, that we have to go through difficulties in order to get to a higher place, in order to grow. Right? We have to be challenged in order to grow. We have to face sometimes suffering in order to be able to break us down enough that we can consciously abandon the parts of us that we don't want anymore. Right? It's a hard thing. But we all know about this. Sometimes we have to be broken down a little bit to be ready to say, you know what? I see this thing that I've been doing, it's worthless. This thing that I've been attached to is not what I want to be attached to. Right? We can see this. And so we have to go down to that low place. Ramata was saying that Rabbi Nachman's main idea in all this is to give us chizuk, to give us strength, to be mechazek us. This is not a yerida, is not a yerida. It's an aliyah. It's just the step that we need to get there, right? Total chizuk. But we see this is kind of what we're saying over here, is that going down into those places is the way that we create perfection and shleimus. Being in the realm of toiv v'ra. Why does the world have to be this way? Because that's the way that we can create perfection. Hashem did not create us to be angels, malachim, with no free will, in a world of perfection. He has that, and he didn't want that. He created the world b'shvil Yisrael, right? For us to live in this way. This is the goal. This is perfection. This is shleimus. This is the ideal, right? So, but having said that, why was Yosef HaTzadik so great? Why was Yaakov Avinu so great? I think that one of the most important things is that it's really not easy to navigate the mixture. And sometimes we have to know, I think one of the most important pieces of wisdom that we have to have and help each other out with is how far do I go into this realm? How far do I put myself into the mixture of toiv v'ra? Where do I allow myself to go and that I know I'll be able to pull out Kedusha, holiness. How far into Aramaic do I go, but still being confident that I can raise it up to Lashon HaKodesh? You hear what I'm saying? One of the things that I've heard said before, everybody knows what kiruv is, right? There's organizations that do kiruv. That means they go and they try to teach, they try to inspire people who aren't religious to come back to their roots and to learn Torah and to do mitzvahs, right? Different organizations. Chabad does a lot of this. Esha Torah or Sameach, all these different things, right? Fantastic. But there was always a discussion amongst those groups, and different groups had different practices. How far do you go into this world, knowing that you can still not only bring people back with you, but you can make it back? In other words, if I could say, you will have a rabbi who will go to, a community center and try to do a program there. You see Chabad sometimes at Walmart. They'll be there during Hanukkah time giving out menorahs to people. Okay. But what if a rabbi wants to go downtown to a club and walk in, with the black hats and everything, walk into a club and start, looking for Jews to talk to? Is that okay? Can a rabbi spend all his time in a club? What if it was a house of ill repute? Can a Rebbitzin, a rabbi, go down to a place like this? What if a kiruv person went into a college campus and there was a bunch of people, with cocaine and all these types of things, and said, I'm going to be like them. I'm going to join them, and then, I'll teach them. So he's going to become a cokehead? Is that? I'm making extreme examples here, obviously, right? But everybody on their own level knows that there's certain places I can bring myself to, but I know if I allow myself to be in certain situations, it's going to pull me the other way. It's going to pull me down. It's going to fill me with negativity. It's going to fill me with it's going to pull all my spirituality out, right? And some of us have friends or family members that when we spend a lot of time with them, they mamish pull us down, right? They can pull us down. So we have to know where our guidelines are, how far we can go in order to accomplish this, right? Because the ultimate goal is to bring the good up, not to have the good fall down. Everybody with me? Anybody think of personal examples? Yeah? Okay. So I think we'll hold it there. This is the end of this section, and the next section is going to be starting with letter Hey, and it's going to go on to another concept around following the same pattern, but we're going to see this concept go deeper and deeper. So I want to just say tonight, right now, is my Hebrew birthday, and I'm now 46 Hebrew years old, and so I want to just take the opportunity to give everybody a blessing, a bracha, that we should all, in Yirtzeh Hashem, continue to learn together and to inspire each other a lot. We should always see the good in each other and the good in ourselves. And we should always remember that our job is to always try to find whatever good we can and raise it up. And when we find ourselves in difficult places, we should just step back and say, okay, wait a second. I'm here because there's something that needs to be elevated. Something needs to be fixed. Something needs to be elevated. And if we can take the Torah of Rabbi Nachman and always have it on our fingertips, we'll always be in this realm. And we'll always be trying to build and to fix and to help and to love and to see the good in everybody instead of chas v'shalom the other way. So thank you, everybody. Anybody have any questions or comments? everyone. Okay, everybody, have a totally amazing... Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Everybody, have a totally amazing week. An amazing Shabbos. Thank you. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Happy birthday,
Okay.
Abraham.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Okay. All the best, everybody.
Thank you so much. You're
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. Love you guys. Bye-bye.